Nisala Villa was originally designed to be a holiday home for my parents because they live in Sydney and they love coming to Sri Lanka, to the mountains where they grew up. As we built the project, we realized we needed to give it a second life to sustain the project and maintain the building. So we decided to turn it into a villa and rent it out. So it's become a boutique villa now. It took us roughly 2 years to build the project, and we were working with a lot of local builders and put together something quite highly spec'd. It was definitely influenced by my experiences in Sydney of very modernist, highly spec'd architecture and bringing it into a Sri Lankan context. The piece of land is quite narrow, so this lent itself towards more of a linear design. So progressing up the platforms, you come across more public spaces at the front. So there's a public terrace and then a big living and dining space under one roof. And then this roof cantilevers over the edge and forms a protective canopy over the terrace. Then as you move into the more private spaces, you come across the studies and the bathrooms, the bedrooms, and the more private terraces, the more private gardens. A lot of the details evolved through a process of working with the stonemasons, the carpenters, and also with my dad. They would suggest ideas and I would respond to them and guide that process towards something that was quite contemporary, quite modernist, yet Sri Lankan. Western, the architect of the Sydney Opera House, wrote an essay called Platforms and Plateaus once about his influence from the Aztecs and the Mayans, how they built these platforms that were kind of like a spiritual experience for them in the jungle, coming out of the jungle into the open. In Western's essay, he drew a few sketches of these clouds above these platforms. There's these floating roofs, these timber roofs that are almost like upturned boat hulls. There was also an influence from Sigiriya, which is an ancient kingdom built atop a rock. The construction of this involves a lot of stone, a lot of brick, and I look back at what I had seen in my travels of Sri Lanka and tied that together with this idea of progressing up these platforms, together with my understanding of the way people live here, with nature, with the outdoors. Every space is on a different level and every space has a garden. So even the bedrooms have their own private gardens, the bathrooms have their own private gardens. The site posed many challenges. So one of the challenges was working with a lot of granite boulders. There were quite a few that came up through excavation, and I ended up incorporating a lot of these into the waterfalls, into the gardens. So I was experimenting with a lot of light in the villa, and with the stepping platforms and the roofs, it creates a lot of opportunities for skylights and light from high-level windows and also from the gardens. Even though they're small, each space has different lighting conditions. And the way the sun moves through the spaces and creates shadows and atmospheres, it's quite an interesting place to be throughout the day. A lot of the furniture in Nisala Villa is sourced from antiques that have colonial heritage. The project is socially sustainable, I'd say, in two ways. Through construction, we involved a lot of local craftsmen and materials that are from Sri Lanka. A lot of foreigners book the place and come as a group, and the villagers get involved in the process. So they would be involved in running the place and experiencing other cultures. People can make a livelihood. All these things are all part of the long-term vision of the villa, and to give it a life beyond just the architecture.